take refuge in the one bright mind of the Buddha. I take refuge in the teaching of truth of the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha and its lineage. Everything we learned came from somebody else. We learned how to speak English because of our parents, because of all those years of school, because of playing with other kids. We learned how to dress and care for ourselves from somebody else. Everything we learned, we came from somebody else. And we call that, in a way, if we looked back, we call that lineage. And in this tradition, at the end of that little chanting service that we did, Gwen recited the kind of the abbreviated version of the lineage of Dharma that we have here. It starts off with the Buddha, and then it goes from the Buddha to India, from India to China with Bodhidharma, from China many different generations to Wu Jing, to Dogen, to on and on to Chosen, to me. So I'd like to talk a little bit this evening about Maezumi Roshi. And Jisan, that's why you have the microphone there, is because Jisan knows Maezumi Roshi perhaps better than I did. But Maezumi Roshi was born in 1931 in Japan, around Tokyo. So that was before World War II. That means he was a kid. He was like 13 when the war ended. So he was right in the middle of the devastation of the war. And so he had a number of years of really brutal homelessness, not quite homelessness, but searching for food, living in rubble. His family was a Soto Zen Buddhist lineage family. His father was in the Soto school, very kind of important place. He had, I think, 6 siblings.
7, right?
Yeah, okay, and
all boys.
Yeah, and most of them became priests in the Soto school. And Maezumi Roshi was the youngest person and came here in 1950s first to help with a Japanese cultural Soto school in LA, Zenchuji. And he began practicing, or he kept practicing. He studied with his father, Bayan Hakujen. He studied with Yasutani Roshi, and he studied with Koryu Osaka Roshi. And he completed koan study, the whole koan curriculum, with both Yasutani Roshi and with Osaka Roshi. Koryu Roshi. Koryu Roshi was a Rinzai teacher, a lay Rinzai teacher, and Yasutani Roshi was kind of a little bit of a hybrid. He was in the Soto school officially, but his teacher, Dayan Harada Roshi, had studied in both Soto and Rinzai. So Maezumi Roshi came to this country. He had not finished his training, and he was a priest at Zenchuji, which is still extant. I was down there a few weeks ago. And little by little, people became interested in meditation, in Zazen. And so he ended up leaving his position as the priest there and forming a little sitting group. And gradually, the little sitting group grew and became the Zen Center of Los Angeles. So, Jisan, you want to talk a little bit about his life at ZCLA, or add anything you want? Jisan was his attendant for a number of years, right? And he lived at ZCLA. We lived at ZCLA together for a few years. So your microphone is next to you.
I'm sorry?
The microphone is next to you. So I'm inviting you to reminisce about Maezumi Roshi and your experience with him and his history.
It's on. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I came to Los Angeles to work at UCLA as a brain scientist, and I had read Alan Watts and had started trying to meditate by myself, but I was also interested in Tai Chi. I started taking Tai Chi with what I later found out was a monk from the Zen Center. And there was an introductory workshop that was presented that probably is very similar to the one that we offer here now. And so I went to that, and I thought, wow, everybody here is enlightened. And I am not. So
What year was that, Jisan?
74 maybe, 73 I think, maybe 73, 74. And I knew, I don't know how I knew, but I knew that this was my life from then on. And so I gradually became more and more involved and started living there, and then took Jukai and then ordination. And the things that I remember most about Maezumi Roshi was, first of all, of course, his dedication to this life and this practice. He gave his life up in Japan and his family up in his tradition there. His name is actually his mom's name, and he took that because his mother's lineage didn't have any male heirs. But of course, the thing that really wasn't addressed at the Zen Center and is now finally being addressed, I think, is the patriarchy and the masculinity and the lack of psychological awareness, I guess you'd say, because it developed in a monastery situation, and there wasn't the opportunity to really look at interpersonal dynamics and what we were what one would struggle with, what we now struggle with in our life and in our practice. And so that lack of sophistication in there finally came to a head. Yeah.
Before we get to the explosion at the end, that was several years down the line. So, what were some of the good points before you talk about this ending, which we'll get to in just a moment?
Do you want to say it? You have some, I guess. Why don't you say it?
So I think Maezumi Roshi was very dedicated. He came and he hadn't finished his training, and he kept going back to Japan to study with teachers, and then the Japanese teachers would come and he would study with them. So he was really very, very interested in the nature of mind, in the nature of finishing his koans and trying to really understand the Buddha Dharma. He was interested in translation. He was a fairly meticulous person. And he had a lot of students. There were, at one point, 85 people? 85 or more people?
At least, yeah.
In this one city block of ZCLA. And sesshin were packed. So we had, the zendo was smaller than this room, maybe. And it was just lined up with people. We had the place that we did kin and walking meditation. We had to sit people in those rows, and they have to move their mats in order for us to walk around with kinhin. And then eventually there were 2 or 3.
2 other houses that we used.
Yeah, well, Genpo did sesshin simultaneously. Did Joko do sesshin then too?
Yeah.
So at one point we had 3 zendos going for sesshin. Joko Beck, Genpo Merzel, and Maezumi Roshi. So it was enormously popular place and affected lots of people, including Jisan and me and Chosen. Maezumi Roshi had 12 kind of official Dharma heirs, Bernie Glassman, Genpo Merzel, Joko Beck, Chosen, Daido Lori, a number of people who have been very well known in the Zen circles, Shishin Wit, Jitsudo. I think there are a total of 12 of them. And they have been spread out around the country, and there are hundreds of centers that are connected with the Zen Center of Los Angeles and the lineage, which is called the White Plum lineage. So, I'm Chosen's indebted to Maezumi Roshi. I'm indebted to Maezumi Roshi. Jisan is indebted. Shunkai, who had had Jukai with Jitsudo, who was one of Maezumi Roshi's Dharma heirs, is indebted. So that lineage has perpetuated and continued. There were some problems at ZCLA, which Jisan was about to say something about, but they were when we left, and I think when Ji-san left, and a number of people left, was the culmination of those problems. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want me to? Okay. So Maezumi Roshi had all these students. There was enormous pressure, and he was an alcoholic. And so he drank a lot when he was off times, and he had some affairs. And the inspiration of the Dharma was great, but the ethical improprieties really broke the community, because it was really intolerable. That's why Chosen and I left. And a number of people left ZCLA because it wasn't, the nature of mind was the emphasis, but the ethical living, how that nature of mind is expressed, was not very well manifest. So Maezumi Roshi had gone into some treatment, a lot of his senior people left, we came up here, and we actually had a break in our connection with him for, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years or longer, while a lot of that was cleaned up. We really weren't connected with it. But nonetheless, I have a deep respect and appreciation for the transmission that we have, the lineage that we have from him. And while nothing is perfect, and we're not trying to replicate an imperfect system, nonetheless, the threads of that dedication, the threads of that confidence are really part of what has fueled Chosen in me. I thought that there are 2 books that were written about him, Appreciate Your Life, the essence of his teaching, which Egyoku, I think, pulled together, and then Bernie Glassman wrote. Egyoku was the person who finally came into ZCLA, who kind of cleaned everything up. And one of the ways that she cleaned everything up is she had council circles. So she would have the community come together in council, like we did with the Palestine-Gaza situation, and we'll continue doing that, where people could really talk freely and people could really express what was in their heart, and there was, in those containers, no crosstalk, and so there was just a lot of real exploration. And we'll be doing more of that here also. But Egyoku came in and did council circles and really listened to everybody and helped to align the ZCLA with the ethical teachings of Dharma. Dogen Zenji, the founder of our school in Japan in the 1200s, at the bottom of the lineage chart, so anybody who has Jukai, who has one of these, gets a lineage chart. And at the bottom of the lineage chart, it's written something like the precepts. The precepts are the treasure of the Sangha. The precepts are the greatest, I forgot how it goes. I've written it so many times, but are the greatest offering we have. And so if there is teaching that does not include the precepts, does not include actual fidelity to them, then it's really off. So there was something off there, and that's part of why here, especially if you're at the monastery, we do precept ceremonies. Every Jukai is about precepts. We did a Fusatsu ceremony last night, last night, where you you do repentance gata, you take the precepts again. So this, we have deep indebtedness to Maezumi Roshi for what he could teach us, and we also have some things that we learned which we don't want to do, which include the problems that he had with the precepts. I wanted to read just a little bit of one of Maezumi Roshi's. Do you want to say something else? No. Okay. So this is about the Dharma seals. This is from the book Appreciate Your Life, which was Egyoku put together. Egyoku, I think she just retired from ZCLA maybe last year or so. And it was put together with Eve Marco, who was Bernie Glassman's wife. So here's what Maezumi Roshi says. Practice can be described in 4 steps. The first is listen to the Dharma. How do you listen? You can listen with your ears. You can listen with your eyes, as you do with a written document. Next, reflect on the teachings that you have heard. If you think the teachings are true, the next step is practice. Work with the teachings. There are all kinds of teachings, and even when you practice them, the important points may not be clear to you. So the fourth step is to verify the teachings through your practice. Confirm the teachings, experience the teachings, not in your head, but throughout your whole being. This is the experience of realization. So we say lots of things in Dharma talks every week, and if you're at the monastery, you hear teachings in classes, and the most important thing is that we verify for ourselves. So we talk a lot about loving kindness practice. We talk a lot about mindfulness practice. We talk a lot about working with the inner critic. If we verify that loving kindness practice, that deep respect, if we verify that mindfulness really is helps to reduce suffering and help us respond more clearly, if we verify for ourselves, that verification is the foundation of faith. And so we can start that verification process, we can start on many different levels. When they say in Buddhism, everything is whole and complete, lacking nothing. If you actually verify that and you touch that, you touch the experience of that, there's a kind of faith there that develops after that. It doesn't last. The experience doesn't last. But the touchstone of faith is there. If you take the precepts and you really practice the precept of not lying, and you verify for yourself that when I speak with integrity, when I do my very best to speak the truth, and I do not lie, things go better. My heart feels more at ease. When we have any of these teachings that we come in and we try them out and we verify for ourselves, that's the foundation of faith. So you can't actually practice for too long without having some foundation of faith. If it's just a bunch of ideas, a lot of people come to practice because they read lots of books. In my day it was the 3 Pillars of Zen and Shinryu Suzuki's Beginner's Mind. What's it called? What's Suzuki Roshi's book?
Zen Mind.
Yeah, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. People would read that and they would think, oh, I understand this. Oh, this makes so much sense. But unless we verify for ourselves, we won't keep practicing. We won't keep going. If we verify there is something here in this moment that has a tingling aliveness to it, we verify there's something in this moment that has integrity. If we verify for ourselves there is something in this moment that we are connected to all things, if we actually verify that, then we begin having some faith in practice. We begin having faith in Dharma. And then we go to sesshin, we start sitting regularly, we do whatever we do. So that verification, that direct experience is the most important. So we say traditionally that there are 3 foundations of practice. Sila, the ethical precepts. And so at ZCLA, there were some real problems with ethics, which we have done our best not to replicate. 2 is samadhi, to be able to meditate deeply, to be actually in this present moment, to actually know the reality of right now without a past and future, to know the fullness of this moment. And then 3 is the functioning of wisdom. How does compassion, how does kindness, how does it function in the world? So we have ethical living, we have the deep experience that comes from insight and meditation, and then we have the functioning of that experience expressed with kindness. Now, one of the experiences that we often talk about is an experience of no separation. And if we look directly at this moment, and you close your eyes and you can feel your experience, you feel your body, you feel the experience, there is no end to that sensation. The sensation is there. It has no limitation. The idea of the body has direct my body ends with my skin and my abdomen. But if you go below that into the feeling of being alive, that feeling of being alive has no boundary. And we can each touch the boundaryless nature of our life. And when we can touch the boundaryless nature of our life, then we get intrigued and say, whoa, maybe there's something really interesting to learn here. And so we have more faith. So I'm very grateful to Maezumi Roshi. He's the one who gave chosen Dharma transmission. And then she's the founder of Great Vow and Heart of Wisdom and everything else that we've done here. So in a way, all of us are in Maezumi Roshi's lineage. We also, in this tradition, have other threads. So I began practicing in 1969 with Philip Kapleau at the Zen Center of Rochester, and who had just come back from Japan. He had studied with Maezumi Roshi, he had studied with Yasutani Roshi, who Maezumi Roshi had studied with. So the two of them knew each other back in those days. And then after our departure from ZCLA, I started studying with Shoto Harada Roshi, who was a Rinzai teacher. And we spent 25 years or more, I'm going to go to Sesshin with him next month, studying with Harada Roshi. So we have the mixture of the calm abiding of the Soto school, of that lineage, and the ferocious inquiry of the Rinzai school mixed together, which is part of our whole tradition. So this particular community has been affected by Maezumi Roshi very, very deeply, and Harada Roshi. We say that Harada Roshi and Maezumi Roshi are the honorary co-founders of Great Vow, because they both have had such deep impacts on us. Comments, insights? Ms. Diane Cole? Yeah, the microphone is for the people online, so people can hear what.
Okay, I know the story. But what happened after the cleanup? Is Maezumi Roshi, I know he's dead, but did he come back to teaching, and then who runs ZCLA?
Well, he died in 1995.
Okay.
So he died a long time ago. And
well, it's relative, isn't it?
it's all relative.
1995.
It's all relative. Well, to me, 1995 is a long time ago.
Okay.
30 years ago. So he died, and then a guy named Hogen. Hogen? Is that his name? Hogen? Who took over?
Egyoku took over.
No, before Egyoku. There was another guy named Hogen who took over for a short period of time. And then Egyoku Nikao. She was the abbot of there for 25 years. And she
But
is
did Maezumi come
meticulous.
back after the breakup of the...
He never actually left.
Okay.
He went into some treatment, but he was still the head of ZCLA until 1995.
Gotcha.
We left, when did you leave?
I'm sorry?
When did you leave ZCLA?
Gee, I forget.
Yeah, we left around,
I went to New York and helped Bernie, and then started studying Joko, probably around 89.
89. I think we left just slightly after you did, I think we left slightly after you did, like 1989 or 90, something like that. I started studying with Harada Roshi in 91, so.
So these councils, and we have them now here.
So I'm just rambling, and so one of the things that is part of the White Plum tradition. White Plum is all those teachers who are subsequent to Maezumi Roshi. So that includes Joko Beck, who was Jisan's teacher, includes Chosen, etc. In the White Plum, we have found that for many cases, council practice is actually a really good practice for community. It's not about the depth of mind, but it's about connection with community. So we used to do a council all the time when we were back at the Portland Dharma Center, and we haven't done it for a while. But now Jomon is picking it up, and we're doing it here, and we used it for the the concerns about Gaza and Palestine. And it was so successful that we'll probably do it some more. But it's a way of everybody in the Sangha being able to really express their heart and be heard deeply.
I think also that's a tradition from a Native American practice.
Started from the Ojai Foundation, picked it up from Native Americans. So the Ojai Foundation, they kind of perfected it, and then people picked it up. And picked up lots of things over the years. But council is, stick around. Gwen has some comment.
Was Maezumi Roshi sent from Japan? And if so, why him?
Maezumi Roshi was, this is after the war. The war ended in 1945. I forgot what VJ Day was in August? Forgotten. So when he was, I think, 18, so let's see, he was born in 1931, so in 45 he was 14, so about being 49 or 50. No, it was later than that. He was sent here as an assistant priest. He was already a priest in the Soto school. He was sent here as an assistant priest for a place called Zenchuji. Zenchuji is in what used to be Japantown in LA. And it was very active, very dynamic, very alive place until before the war. And then during the war, it was decimated because of all the deportations and incarcerations. And then he went in the 50s as the assistant priest there. And one of the things that happens in those Japanese cultural places, we were just in Japan in the spring, they do a lot of ceremonies. So he was helping with the ceremonies, for the ceremonies of people who had died, anniversary ceremonies, memorial ceremonies, jukai ceremonies, lots of different kinds of ceremonies. So he was sent there but he wasn't really satisfied with just ceremonial practice. Most Americans aren't. And he wanted something that was really a little gutsier, a little deeper. So he began having meditation groups. And because he was interested in koan practice, he began doing koan practice with his students. Everybody's lineage is flawed. If we look back far enough, all of our lineages have pirates and slaveholders and people who are disreputable. If you look back, there is no pure lineage anywhere. We're all part of this frothing human situation. And so it's up to us to make the very best choices we can make, to have the most integrity, given who we are, given what we inherited. So I meant to actually talk more about Maezumi Roshi's teachings, but I encourage you, if you're interested at all in where we came from, these are 2 books that are in the library here, and there's lots of stuff online. We have, for what it's worth, we have 1,500 Dharma talks that he did, so there's a lot. But he was a person that was flawed, but really, really interesting person. And I hope we can all learn from every source. Thank you.